Well, take a look at your screen right now. What you are seeing is just the beginning of a 4 million strong illegal immigrant caravan heading to the United States. Our next guest, independent journalist Ryan Matta, has been covering this extensively over the past couple of months. He's been watching and warning the United States what's coming. 4 million illegal immigrants heading for the United States. And Ryan joins us now to dive more deeply into this story. Ryan, good to see you. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing in cataloging and trying to warn the American people of what's coming. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Clayton. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So you've been down at the border, many, many times. You have tens of thousands of hours of footage, and you've been tracking this caravan. And I don't want to be alarmist at all, but when you have seen the numbers, you've been cataloging these numbers, and your numbers are pointing to around 4 million illegal immigrants heading to the United States. Am I accurate in that number?
Yes, you are, Clayton. And that is, you had interviewed Carlos Arellano. So Carlos Arellano is he's a very brave whistleblower that came forward to expose the child trafficking that's going on. He also speaks Spanish, so he's actually been reading the Mexican news, the local newspapers in Mexico. They're the ones who have been reporting on this and warning us, because the cities in Mexico, the citizens there are getting very upset because the migrants are basically overflowing their cities. There's reports coming in that when these migrants are actually riding the train of death to America and they make it to a certain point in Mexico, they're waiting in Mexico to get a message from CBP on the app telling them to come. So these towns in Mexico where all these trains are riding, it's overwhelming. And then you see the train bridge above me, right? The train just goes,
Right.
it literally like every 30 minutes, like it must only go a couple miles into Mexico, stop, and then go back into the United States. And it just goes back and forth, back and forth.
Filled with migrants.
No, you can't see the migrants. So they're getting off the bridge. You know what I'm saying? They're probably on the back cars. We can't see
Right.
it on our side. They get off and then they come and they walk right across there in Eagle Pass.
It's unbelievable. So when I say 4 million illegal immigrants, the footage that you're seeing here on your screen that you've been capturing, drone footage at Eagle Pass and on a regular basis, the thousands that are coming across, when do you think the bulk of the 4 million are set to arrive in the United States? Are we seeing it now, or is it going to be months, or is it later in 2024?
I think we're already seeing it, Clayton. They are obviously already showing up at our shores. That's why we actually went down to Texas. We went down there on November 18th, so about 2 weeks ago now. That's where all this drone footage is from. That's why we went down there, because we heard from Carlos that this was coming and that it would be arriving sometime in the beginning of November. So around November 1st, and roughly over like a 90-day period, based off of the intel that we got from one of our buddies, muckrakers, who actually got dropped off over in Colombia and made the trip with the migrants all the way through Panama, all the way through the Darien Gap, rode the train of death up to America. And it took them, I want to say, about 6 weeks to make it here. So you figure that the farthest point of that caravan, maybe 90 days, roughly, there's that many coming here.
So we could be seeing really by mid-January into early February when the bulk of this migrant pattern is coming to us.
Absolutely. We're seeing it already. Look what's happening in Arizona. They're literally having to shut down. There's migrants. I forget the article, but they just published it. Allie Bradley over on Twitter reported on it. There's migrants in Arizona that are being stuck out in the desert. So they're coming across the border. They're registering on the Border Patrol app. And then Border Patrol is supposed to go out and basically pick up these migrants. They made it onto USA shore. They've claimed asylum. They're walking through the desert. Well, Border Patrol is so busy. They're so overwhelmed right now that Border Patrol can't get out and I guess pick up these migrants. So the migrants are now setting boulders in the road and crashing cars in America. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got injured, but the car was destroyed from the migrant that did it. So if we got a point where Border Patrol can't even do their job, they can't even process these people fast enough, what do you think it's going to look like when just waves of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people hit these processing facilities? There's nowhere to go. Airports are overrun. Everything is overrun right now. We're already seeing it, Clayton.
You've been alerting the government. You've been telling the government about it. What response have you gotten from the Biden administration? Have they said, we're taking action on this, where we've got it covered, don't worry about this, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, they're on top of it, Clayton.
Right.
They couldn't actually respond to me fast enough. I didn't even make it off the plane before I was getting texts from the Biden administration.
So you were down there just recently, of course, and the drone footage. I want you to tell the story of interacting with the Border Patrol, because you had your drones up capturing these individuals, and they're on to you now. Are they trying to hide what they're doing in different parts, or can you talk about what you experienced with the Border Patrol?
So the first time we got down there, I had two altercations with Border Patrol. I thought we were allowed on public property or private property to walk along the edge of the border where all that razor wire is. And we did the first day. Didn't have too many issues. National Guard was who we ran into the first time. I guess we weren't in the right area. I was kind of more off to the right of those bridges, kind of cruising along the border. I actually rented a Dodge F-150. If anybody's going to go down to the border, I suggest renting a white Dodge F-150 or Dodge Ram 1500 four-door. That's the exact same white truck that National Guard and Border Patrol use. So if you're going to cruise along the border, you really blend in. You can you're allowed to be there. They'll use color of law and tell you that you're not. You're allowed to drive there. We did. But if they stop you, they see you, they tell you to get off and whatever. So National Guard was really nice. Then we started to run into Border Patrol. Border Patrol is the one who's going to use the color of law to basically try to intimidate you into leaving. And now they have a dedicated media area. So you're kind of roped off. You can't report. You can't see everything that you want to see because they kind of put you into a specific area. But luckily I had my drone, so I was able to get around that. It seems like that they don't want us there for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. I wonder what it happens to be.
And then that's it. You were asking about the drone footage. So we had got there in the morning. We had just got there. I told Clayton right before we went live, every time I've gone to Eagle Pass about 4 different times, I would have to get down to Eagle Pass and maybe stay there for 30 minutes or an hour. Or maybe when I got there, there might be 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 come in, and you could see a couple down the river walking up. But it wasn't like those giant caravans, just row after row, just a never-ending sea of people. So I flew my drone up, and as soon as I got my drone out to the bridge, I seen the people on the back of the shipping container. You can probably throw the video up, and you'll see them all standing on the back of the shipping container. And then there's 2 bridges, one on the right. I was right in between them. And then I went over to the one on the right. When I got over to the one on the right, I seen that Border Patrol had set up a ladder over the shipping containers. There was migrants like reaching down, pulling each other up onto the shipping container. And then Border Patrol had put up a ladder so they could walk down. And then as soon as they see my drone out there, it immediately stopped. The ladder came down. People were starting to come back up on the shipping containers and starting to go down. And then they started sending them to the other side. And then within 10 minutes, the whole back of those shipping containers was covered in migrants because the Border Patrol's like, wait, we can't be filmed letting these people into this country. We're not supposed to be doing these things. Wait, we got to stop. And that's when they sent the sheriff out to try to tell me that they had a helicopter flying up and that I had to take my drone down because they had a helicopter in the sky. And I said, well, I'm sorry, sir. I'm a licensed drone pilot in all 50 states. And actually on my device here, I'm connected to air traffic control and you don't have a bird in the air. So if there is one, I'll get a warning and I'll actually be forced to take my drone down. Until that happens, I'm going to continue to fly my drone. And he goes, that's not the point. We have operations. And he started giving me a hard time, huffing and puffing. And then he literally just walked away.
He's like, oh, you found me out. Happened? Oh, you know the truth. Yeah, that's anyone who operates a drone like I do. It gives you an alert right there to let you know that you have to get out of that airspace immediately. And it'll actually move you. It actually forces you, the drone, out of the airspace. You can't control it. So that's great. That's amazing. Speaking of aircraft, a big story that you've actually been covering is also that American taxpayers are footing the bill for the tickets for airline passengers to be flying and being transporting these illegal immigrants in the United States. This is unbelievable. So most Americans think that, our tax dollars are going to a porous border. Little do they know that their tax dollars are actually going to transport them via aircraft in the United States. Can you talk about this story that you just broke?
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to Hernando Arce. That's at Hernando_RC over on Twitter, and then _Beyond the Mask. They're the reason that I was actually down in San Antonio the first time. They're doing great work. They're citizen journalists that are out there every day with nobody, very little followings, very small, but they're out there every day filming. And I met Hernando at one of these protests, and he's the one who also speaks Spanish. So he goes to the migrant processing facilities. So after the migrants come across the border, they go to a processing, or they go right under the bridge, they get checked in, they get on a bus, and then they get shipped to a processing center. And then from that processing center, they get shipped up into San Antonio. And this is where we were at in San Antonio. This is where Hernando Arce was. And he was out there filming and he was interviewing one of the illegal immigrants. And another one came up to him and says, hey, man, can you give me a ride to the airport? And he goes, ride to the airport? Why do you need a ride? He goes, well, I don't have any money and my plane leaves at 3:00.
I don't have any money. I don't have any money and my plane leaves at 3:00. Okay.
Yep. And he goes, let me see your plane ticket. So he shows him his plane ticket and he goes, okay, well, why don't you just call an Uber? And he goes, well, I can't afford an Uber. I don't have any money. And he hems and haws and he takes him. So once he gets in the car, the migrant actually starts opening up to him. He saw that he was interviewing somebody else. The migrant starts opening up to him. And when the migrant starts opening up to him, he starts telling him, he said, hey, and Hernando goes, is there anything you'd like to tell us about these facilities? And the migrant was kind of upset, complaining about it. He goes, absolutely. He goes, what's really bizarre is they kept me at this facility for 13 to 15 days until one of my family members could buy me a plane ticket. Then after they bought me the plane ticket, they wanted to take a copy of the receipt and log it into their system, implying that they were going to be billing the US government for the plane ticket that his relatives just bought him. They wouldn't let him leave this facility until he had purchased a plane ticket. Then once he had purchased a plane ticket, they just let him, like they didn't give him a ride to the airport. They didn't help him with anything, nothing.
They just let him out, and he gets to go, and he gets to fly wherever he wants. And where exactly is he flying to? Where exactly is he flying to then? Are they sending them to different locations where he's going to live with some sort of a family? I mean, I just don't understand where they're shuttling him off to.
I don't know. Yeah, he said he's going with his family. His family was the one who's purchased the plane ticket. And I believe he was going to Montana.
Okay, so his family was purchasing the plane ticket.
Sure. Yeah, that's how yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
It's crazy, is it not?
Right. Yeah, his family's got credit cards. They're able to pay plane tickets, book him on a plane. Yeah. I'm sure that all sounds totally above board. And then the American taxpayers then are refunding the ticket cost for whomever actually did pay for that airline ticket up front.
Absolutely, yes. That's what they're claiming, allegedly. And then Hernando followed up with him because he asked that he had his face blurred. After Hernando blurred his face, he sent the video to him, upheld it. The guy reached back out, and Hernando was asking him more questions. He said, well, how did you know? Like, you were at this facility for 13 days. How did you know that that's what was going on there? Like, how did you know? And he goes, oh, that's the talk. Like, all the migrants that are at these facilities, like the word on the streets inside these facilities that this is what these people are doing. And then not only that, he was complaining that the employees that are getting food that's supposed to be for the migrants, and then they're giving it, then the employees are eating it there. So the employees are eating the food that's supposed to be given to these migrants as well. And he said the food's horrible. It's juice boxes, slices of bread. Not that I am encouraging like giving these people 5-course meals, but when we're paying these NGOs hundreds of millions of dollars, where is that money going? Who audits these companies? Where is the oversight over these NGOs?
Yeah, there is none. There is none. This is a national tragedy. The United States is changing right before our eyes. And if you don't think that this idea of replacing the Americans with illegal immigrants is happening, you're fooling yourself. You're a useful idiot then. It's happening right before your eyes.
Absolutely. And what do you think? I mean, if we have 4 million coming, and then they're not going to stop. So if they're already, and every single time they've ratcheted up. So if we have 4 million coming, you're going to assume the next is going to be 5 and then 6. And before you know it, we're at a point where we've increased the US population size by 10% over a 4-year period. That is absolutely catastrophic. And not only are we doing that, we're also putting some of these people on universal basic income. If you come across the border with a woman and child, you can apply and get $2,200 a month of universal basic income. Healthcare, insurance, food, UBI. I mean, you got it made. The system is broken when you're treating illegal immigrants better than you're treating veterans. Period.
Right. That's exactly what's happening. And all you need to do is look at the riots in Ireland over the past week to see what happens when your entire system is crushed under the weight of migrants. They can't sustain it. The United States is collapsing, and you're watching it happen in real time. Ryan, thank you so much for this. We're keeping our eye, of course, on this caravan throughout the holidays. Most people will be tuned into other things, unfortunately. Hopefully there's members of Congress who are watching this and will try to stop this, to do whatever we can to stop this, because it's fundamentally changing the United States of America right before our eyes. Thank you for this, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Clayton, thank you, man. Thank you for everything that you and your family do. God bless you, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.